Hey guys, Luton here, and you've got what you could call today our first look at the Naval Strike DLC. These are some high-res screen caps that have been posted on the Battlefield blog, and it gives us a really good idea and a good look at some elements of Naval Strike and what we're going to see. Now, first of all, looking at this image here, obviously the first thing you see is the hovercrafts. They're going to be a two-man vehicle. They look a little bit wider, a little bit longer than the jet skis. Now, no real idea about speed or how they're going to handle. I would imagine that they may be a little bit more stable, turning a little bit more considered than the jet skis, but one of the main things you're going to see right there, of course, is that little missile silo. Now, for those of you that don't know, that's probably going to be a missile silo that you'll see in Titan mode. The way that Titan mode works is that you have two ways to take down the Titan, okay, the Titan being obviously this large vessel of both teams. Now, you're going to have two ways to take them down. Either you board the vessel and destroy it internally, blow it up, or you have to control it, very much like Conquest. You have to control these missile points around the map, and the missile points that you control fire towards the Titan. The more missile points you control, the quicker that other Titan is going to go down, but it does take a long time, so it's not like a fast thing. It's very much like a Conquest game. So in many ways it's kind of like Rush and Conquest combined into one game mode. That's really kind of how it is. And so what we see here is that missile silo. You'll also notice in the background there the plane. Now, I assume this is one of the planes, or the plane, which you're going to be able to destroy and move around in. So I assume it starts off as an entire structure and then somehow you destroy it. Anyway, that's our first cap. I would also say you'll notice some of the trees and things. It does look very like Paracel Storm, so whether or not that's going to be a good thing, I don't know. Okay, so next up, obviously what we've got here is a carrier. This is probably going to be one of the Titans in the game. As you can see, the Titan as itself, it doesn't have a huge amount of detail in terms of structures on it. I assume that they've probably toned back a lot of the detail here to, allow it to be destructible, so it's more simplistic. However, you will notice it does look fairly well armoured on the front and the sides here, this plating, and I guess the idea is that it is like a Titan carrier, that it can take a bit of a beating from various sort of, attacks and so on. As to how you will board it, obviously I assume you'll be able to come down from above. Helicopters can land on the deck and you'll be able to come in, so again, maybe some great power dropping action there. You can see further down towards the back there is kind of like an open section, so perhaps there's some ladders and things. You come alongside with one of the attack boats, you can jump out, get in on board, like that kind of thing as well. But again, quite straightforward here, but looking at the water, looking at things, it's all kind of, one thing that you notice is the ship does appear to be moving, so you can see that kind of spray coming up around it, so perhaps the Titans will be perhaps on some kind of course, maybe moving very slowly but still actually moving rather than being a stationary target. Now, there is also the visual aspect of this DLC. They obviously want to push this beautiful vistas. You can see this environment, that's very much part of it, and you can see some kind of small fishing huts in the background there, but the beauty and the kind of immersion of the environment is very much something they want to bring in here, and I'm sure no doubt they're going to have that levolution aspect where, the scenery changes up, you get a bit of a storm coming in. Whether or not it'll be exactly like we see in Paracel Storm, I don't know, but I think it's going to be some factor there, maybe not on all of the maps, but some for sure. They also make mention of this when they're talking about capturing fishing villages across tropical lost islands. They also go on to mention about the submarines as well. Drop a submarine on your foes as you infiltrate a naval base, and you remember that we talked about this in the past, and I said when people were talking about submarines, and I was like, I don't think, guys, you're going to actually be able to play or sort of blow them up as such. It'll be very much like a kind of in situ object that you kind of enact on, and it also sounds like the plane is going to be something along those lines as well. It says that Wave Breaker is meant to be a very massive map, and you can dodge between shipping docks and rocky islands on that. Wage war across stormy seas in the largest ocean stretch in Battlefield 4 map with Naval Strike, and storm an abandoned cliffside resort or get lost in the breathtaking vistas in Operation Mortar. So they tried to kind of change up the maps, give them a different feel, but again, from these screenshots you don't get that impression, so we need to wait and see a little bit more before we kind of start to get an idea exactly how these maps are going to look. This particular image does show a kind of slightly different look to the other ones, so perhaps it has got this more kind of Twilight feel. Maybe that's actually what the kind of evolutionist aspect is. Perhaps it goes from kind of day to this kind of sunset aspect, or maybe it just stays in situ as it is, but we'll have to wait and see. Really need a bit more information before we start seeing just how different the maps are. From these screenshots though, they look fairly similar throughout. Okay, and then we come to the very last screen right here. You can see the attack boat being chased down by an attack helicopter. Unlikely. I'm not sure how long that attack helicopter is actually going to be staying in the air on most of these maps. But you can see the trees kind of blowing there, and it clearly shows that the weather change is coming in. You can kind of see to the right it's kind of clear, to the left it's quite dark. So definitely they're going to have that same weather change in this, I would assume, as with Paracel Storm. Again, is it going to happen on every map? I don't know. Probably not. Probably maybe one or two out of the maps it's going to be there. That big explosion in the background, is it a jet ski blowing up with a ton of C4? Is it the Titan destroying the distance? We don't know. It's pretty hard to tell from this. But again, it's showing that they're going to have that kind of dynamic combat, you know, boats attacking helicopters, all this kind of stuff moving around. Personally, this Naval Strike DLC, I am kind of looking forward to it. I do think it's going to be slightly make or break. I think a lot of people are really waiting to see how this pans out. How is it going to be? Is it going to be armored kill on water, or is it going to be something a little bit more interesting? We know before now that vehicle heavy maps tend to not be the most popular maps because people really value that kind of on the ground, you know, boots FPS gameplay. They like that sort of style. The vehicles are fantastic, they're good to have in the game, but they are kind of like more of a tool and an object, a device, rather than necessarily the core gameplay as such. And so I wonder, we'll see how this plays out. Personally, I love kind of the aquatic gameplay that they've put into Battlefield 4. I love it on Paracel Storm when you're crashing around in the waves with the attack boats, and you can have some really intense gameplay action there. Even with the scout helis, you're kind of dive bombing down and stuff. But you know, we'll wait and see. We really have to see. Will this DLC have the longevity required to really carry us through to the next one? We don't know or have a date really set on when the next DLC will be post after this, so again, it'll be interesting. I think quite a lot is riding on this DLC, but let me know your thoughts. What do you think about these screenshots? What do you deduce from them? Are you looking forward to Titan mode? Do you think that's going to be a good game mode to bring in? As I say, remember, it is kind of like Rush and Conquest combined together in one map, and so there is that option of sort of dual tactical ability. You know, do you push one aspect or the other? You know, depending on how one team pushes, if one team's going for the Conquest aspect and everybody else pushes for the Rush kind of, you know, internal destruction aspect, that you could be like ships in the night. So you kind of really have to be very careful, and again, that requires some team play, which, let's face it, has been a little sparse of late. Anyway guys, as I say, let me know your thoughts below. Interested to hear as always. Much more stuff coming very soon. See you next time guys, more Battlefield 4.